Hi, Katie from MasterTrack here, and I'm just going to give you a brief review of what it can look like to determine goals for an acceleration cycle. So, determining goals usually starts with taking a look at a report by standard, whether it's a class report by standard or a grade level report by standard. If you're working individually using MasterTrack on your own as a classroom teacher, you'll do a class report by standard. If you're working with your grade level team and everybody's using MasterTrack, then you will want to most likely generate a grade level report by standard. Either way, you'll want to look at your data this way. I think seeing the data by standard is very helpful in terms of kind of seeing very clearly where there are areas of need to dig into. This is an example of a fourth grade uh, report by standard at the beginning of the year. So this report is just showing us the data from the benchmark, the B1 beginning of year baseline benchmark data. Once you've pulled that, I like to look through that data and I look at all the standards and I think about a couple of different things. I think about what might be coming up for my grade level instruction. So, what do I want to be sure my students have in place before I teach that? I think about what are the most foundational skills that I really want to be sure are solid. Where do I have the greatest need? And then what are short term versus long term goals? Now, short term goals are goals that I think are more likely to be achievable during an acceleration cycle, which is approximately 4 weeks. Longer term goals are typically areas like fact fluency or number sense or word problems. Those are things that I know I'm going to be working on all year long. And I'm still going to identify those perhaps as goals for an acceleration cycle, but I know that it's something that I'm also going to be working on kind of all throughout the school year. So looking back at that data, what I typically do is I go first to place value, especially when I'm looking at kind of second, third, fourth, fifth grade, um, to be sure that those students have a strong foundation in place value. So here we can see place value within 10,000. There's a pretty significant need there. So I'm definitely going to highlight that as a goal. And kind of building on that theme of place value and numbers and operations, you can see a little bit below that we have quite a need for solidifying fluently adding within 1,000. So that computational kind of place value operations, beginning with addition, and then also including fluently subtract within 1,000, where there is an even greater need. So typically, I start with place value. I recommend solidifying that, making sure those students have that strengthened, and then working with students on fluently adding within 1,000, where you have students that need to work on that, and then moving on to your groups that need to work on fluently subtracting within 1,000. I like to lump those together because they're also connected. And it sort of puts us in a place of thinking about place value and carrying that over into computation. I'm not going to work on comparing numbers or rounding numbers until I know I have those other pieces solidified, right? Because those are more place value within 10,000 is more foundational, and we're going to rely on that for comparing numbers and for rounding numbers. So we want to go back and get these foundational pieces in place and solidified. I'm not even going to look at multiplication and division yet, right? There's a lot of work to be done there, but I really want to start with those most foundational skills first. Um, from there, I can see that there's also fractions, but that's something that I'm going to kind of table and work on a little bit later as well for the same reasons. And then you see that there's a need for working on fact fluency. At the top there, you can see addition and subtraction within 20. And then you can see a little further down that multiplication and division within 100 are also areas of need. We're not going to try to tackle them all in one acceleration cycle. What I do is I typically highlight as goals addition and subtraction within 20 at the beginning of the year. It's kind of a nice place for us to start. But I know I'm going to be working on that all year long, along with multiplication and division. But I like to keep it on my radar so that I'm ensuring that I'm making sure that I'm providing my students with opportunities to strengthen their number sense and mental math skills. So that's just an example of how you can determine goals based on your data by standard.